Morning, everybody. My name is Jacques du Toit, CEO at Vox. I said yesterday on the panel, I've been 30 plus years in the industry. I've got all the scars to share with you. Today's topic is ISP business models in a price-sensitive market. Well, that's just a polite way of saying, how do we stop the bleed that's currently going on? All right, but before we get into the serious stuff, let's just have a moment of silence for the dumb pipe ISP. Born in 1995, died in 2026, and why did it die? Because of commoditization. There's three numbers that keeps me awake every night, if I can get this to move. The first one is churn. If your churn is above 4% a monthly basis, you will lose half your subscriber base every year. The cake currently in South Africa stays the same size. Right, the FNOs have stopped building apart from the lower LSMs. So all that's happening is we're stealing from each other. If your churn is at 2%, you will lose a quarter of your base every year. So gross sales is linked directly with our churn number. Lifetime value of a customer. If you sell bundled services, you can increase that lifetime to between 40 and 60%. Then let's talk about the shift of revenue. In 2018, global statistics showed us that 85% of ISP revenues came from the pipe, the bandwidth. In 2026, it's predicted that that number will shrink to 35%. Now, being in the industry that long, I remember back in the Diginet days, we sold a 2 meg Diginet link for 20,000 Rand. Who of you were around those days? Well, and we made 20%. So we made 4,000 Rand a month in those days. The day when Diginet died, we were selling that for 1,899, and we were still making 20%. But our absolute margin shrunk from 4,000 Rand to 400 Rand. Yet operating cost around you went up. And how many of us are still just selling a pipe at the end of the day? And you can clearly see the mix between connectivity, over-the-top services, managed security, and IoT. If you're not playing in that space, you're going to form part of that coffin experience I showed you earlier. So let's talk about bundled customers. From an ARPU perspective, if you bundle in the correct way, and not the bundles we're seeing from traditional ISPs today, you can expect to increase your ARPU between 25 and 40%. What we've experienced, the right bundles, gives us margins in excess of 35%. The small packages that everybody is selling, the 10, 20 meg packages, are giving us a margin of around about 13 and 9%. You can't survive, you can't make money, you can't grow your business at a 9% margin. From a churn perspective, it's very difficult for a customer who's got multiple bundles to churn. When I talk to our staff, I always reference back to the gym logic. Why do people stay with Planet Fitness and Virgin Active while there's a lot of cheaper options available? Number one, there's a pool, there's a sauna, there's a creche, and there's a Kauai to go and get a bite to eat afterwards. You can gym for cheaper, but you stick around there because they offer value-added services. Switching, customers that are subscribed to bundles are less likely to switch. At 50 to 70% reduction in that bundle due to the value that you provide them. I want to quickly take you through 6 examples of ISPs that were irrational in their thinking. In India, one of the ISPs shifted away from selling broadband, shifted away from selling pipes. They said for 70 Rand a month, roughly $3.60, they are now selling cinema, over-the-top TV, fintech, and there was one more product. In 4 years, they grew to the number 1 ISP with 200 million subscribers. The competitor tried to follow with price. They killed themselves within 1 year. If I look at one or two of the other examples, let's just go back, other examples. Proximus, Orange, BT Group, Swisscom, Mega Cable, I'm going to talk about 2. The first one is Orange. I tried to bring their product into South Africa, but I think the timing was wrong. They said, how do we increase our revenue in an addressable market that no ISP is playing? And they decided to target the elderly, the single elderly. They developed a technology that tracks the behavior of a single old person. Something that I didn't know, old people, especially single old people, are stuck to a very unique routine. They wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, they go to the toilet. They make their first cup of tea at, call it 4:30. At 10 o'clock, they make the second cup of tea. At 12 o'clock, the third cup of tea. At 4 o'clock, Auntie Sunny comes in for a visit. Very, very predictable. And all they developed was a device, like an infrared device that they would put up in the corner of the house, and it will take 2 weeks to learn the behavior of that person. Because it's so predictable, if you did anything outside your routine, it would create an alarm and notify the family, notify the nurse. So they opened up an entirely new addressable market with massive margins. If I look at Mexico, Megacable, right, supposed to be poor in the outlying areas. They bundle TV with a wireless solution with fiber, and they increase their revenue between 20 and 35% in a market that is supposed to be poor. So, 2 games, 2 playbooks. In Vox, what I find the most difficult is to service the corporate and the consumer customer. If you service them the same, you're going to lose both of them. That's fact. We refer to our consumer customers like cats. Right? They go where the food is cheap. They want something that really benefits their back pocket. Where a corporate customer will be loyal to you if you look after him and help him to look after his business. So the first thing you've got to do is make sure your strategy that deals with consumers are completely different to corporates. So let's look at the South African market for a moment. For 18 million homes, 4 million homes connected. Now, being an ISP in South Africa is like running a marathon in hiking boots during a thunderstorm while someone else is moving the finishing line all the time. That's what it feels to me like every single day. So with the investment from Massive, with the government's broadband initiatives, there's 14 million homes that's standing at our doorstep. Yesterday, the last session, we spoke about hybrid network integrations. Maybe fiber is not the solution for that market. Maybe LEO is not the solution. But it's up to us to come up with innovative ideas to address that market up until such time that the fiber is available. But if we're looking to grow the cake, we don't need to look outside the borders of South Africa. The existing cake, we need to service with value-added services. The bigger cake, we just need to find a technology to address that market. So the graveyard. Let's learn from those that have died already. Right? Let's learn from those mistakes. Much cheaper than learning that lesson yourself. 4 typical mistakes worldwide that ISPs make. The price war spiral. I spoke about the India scenario earlier on. $3.60, get a full bouquet of over-the-top services. Competitor dead in 1 year because he only had 1 product. Everybody is about the land grab. Not only with FNOs, but also with ISPs. I sit in a pricing meeting every Monday, and we look at our competitor pricing, and I ask myself, how is it we all buy, our bandwidth costs the same price. Our backhaul costs the same price. To service a customer costs the same price. And I look at competitor behavior that is ridiculous in terms of customer acquisition, with a hope that I'm going to upsell, with a hope that I'm going to pass a price increase. The biggest complaints, and I know there's many CEOs sitting here dealing with customer escalations. I get about 4 complaints every day that I deal with. The number 1 complaint is my Wi-Fi is not working. I spoke about that yesterday. The number 2 complaint happens right after a price increase. Consumers are tired of paying more and getting double the bandwidth. They've got enough bandwidth. Right. They subscribed 4 years ago on a certain package, call it a 50 meg package for 400 or 500 rand. That's what he can afford. He doesn't want anything more. So I think the days of FNOs passing through price increases and trying to soften the blow just with additional bandwidth, those days are definitely over. So land grab, if you look at, well, everywhere in the world, people will leverage themselves. They will say, let's get out there, let's just fiber up a home, let's just connect the customer, the revenue will come. If there's a slight change in interest rate and the consumable spending money drops, okay, that's where they start to hurt and they get bankrupt very quickly. Legacy, I deliberately had there on the slide ADSL, but that's not really what I want to talk about. How many of us today know that our customer, loyal customer that's been with us for 5 or 6 years, are still sitting with that CPE that's 5 years old. Right. It's difficult to manage. He's got weak Wi-Fi, cyber protocols on there. He's probably not even getting the speed throughput given the line speed he's got now. But the question we ask ourselves, is it worthwhile to spend $1,000 to replace that technology? Or should we bank it and keep the shareholders happy? I think it's one of the biggest mistakes ISPs are making. And the last one, the lazy bundle. So often, I sit with the product team and they say, well, let's just bundle and bundle. But the example I've got there is, why bundle Netflix? I've got Netflix with or without fiber. So you're adding no value in my life by adding Netflix. You've got to challenge your team when it comes to bundling services that adds proper value with proper margin. So what's Vox doing? And today's not a sales pitch. Today's just really honestly sharing with you some of the journey that I experienced over the last few years. So come on, one sec. Where am I supposed to point this? There we go. Right. 5 bets. During COVID, I had an arrangement with my family that every night at 7 o'clock we will have dinner together. Actually at 6:30. And then I forced the kids to watch news. Because I don't know if your kids watches the news, but mine doesn't or didn't. Right, so we would sit down, and after the news there was a weather that was presented by Annette Botha and Annika, I can't remember her surname now. Crunch time for ENCA, and they discontinued the weather. And my 18, 17-year-old, 2 weeks later, said, Dad, you need to write a letter to the MD of ECNA and tell them to bring the weather back, because I don't want to sit and listen to this fly. So eventually I reached out on LinkedIn to Annette. Now imagine this, the CEO of a telecommunications company contacting a meteorologist for a meeting. Doesn't make sense. It feels like a bit of stalking going on. Right. But eventually, Annette, 2 weeks later, phoned me up and said, listen, let's have a meeting. That was in July, 3 years back. August, we flighted our first weather broadcast. My board thought I was completely off my rocket. Okay, how does weather relate back to an ISP? 3 years later, we've got 576,000 followers. We have a broadcast every night at 6 o'clock. People can't wait to see Annette and Michelle, and we have got zero complaints on that channel. You go to Vox's social media channel, it's a different story. Right. Vox is crap, accounts is crap, outage is crap. Everybody is fighting on that channel. But the loyalty we've built on Vox Weather, I've never seen anything like that. But it was a bit of a leap of faith. We then started talking about rewards. How do we give a consumer something back that's really valuable? What does Vodacom and MTN do as rewards? They give you back what you've already got. I don't want more minutes. I don't want more data. I've got enough. I can go and sit at Starbucks, at McDonald's. I sit at my house. Data is cheap these days. Don't give me more data. So we then spent a year to develop a loyalty program that puts money back into your pocket. But we said there's a few behaviors that we want to try and capitalize on. We want the customer to be on debit order, because these days consumers don't pay on time. And then when you switch them off, you're the bad guy. All right, so let's try and get them onto a debit order. The second thing we tried, I said, how do we differentiate in this price war? Our biggest competitor, month in, month out, bottom package, 50 Rand cheaper. In a price-sensitive market, looks at the packages, he goes, I can get 100 meg now from anybody, I'm going to go with this guy who's 50 Rand cheaper. But if we can bundle, which we've done, a grocery voucher that gives him access to 1,250 Rands worth of groceries, suddenly that differential is only that 50 Rand becomes immaterial, because he's off 1,200 Rand better with Vox. You buy loyalty. If he had to leave Vox now, he loses out on 1,200 Rands worth of grocery vouchers. He loses out on 15% discount at Edgar's. He loses out on 150 Rand Kentucky bucket every single month. It sounds like a stupid example, but the biggest redemption is groceries. The second one is the 15% on Edgar's, and the third one is the Kentucky buckets. Very interesting. Then, simple idea, we prioritized gaming. I'm not a gamer myself, but I was shocked to see the amount of traffic on our network that's gaming related. Small tweak on the network, charge a small fee, but you buy loyalty. It's not about the money. It's about keeping that gaming customer on board. And then the two things that we're launching very shortly, consumer SLAs and education. Now let's talk about SLAs first. Who of you, just quickly, do you subscribe to an SLA? Do you have an SLA with a fiber operator, with education department? But if you've got one, have you ever claimed on your SLA? I bet the question is no. Because you know your chances of getting anything back is pretty much zero. Why? Because it was written by the lawyers. I remember the first time I looked at an OpenServe, and no pun intended, OpenServe SLA. I sat with the team and I said, guys, this is not worth the paper it's written on. Because we've got to be down for 3 months before we can claim 1 cent. Because it's written so smartly, so many consecutive days, measured over a period of a year, there's got to be breakage in so that if there's a claim, the FNO is not out of pocket. For me, that's not an SLA. So if you want to differentiate, you put your money where your mouth is and you pay a customer back if you screwed up. Right. I'm a bit scared that we had the debate to say, should we automate the payment back to a customer? If the network is down, it's down. You screwed up. Here's your money back. But if you automate it, it will cost a lot of money. But then give the benefit to the customer to say, phone us up, tell us we're in breach of the SLA, and here's your credit for the real downtime. Something simple. But again, the customer feels that the SLA is not drafted to protect Vox. The SLA is drafted to protect the customer. And then the last one, okay, sorry guys, I'm a bit slow here. What if we pivot and we use the pipe and the bandwidth to educate South Africa? Everybody talks about education. Look at the beginning of the year. What happens at all the TVET colleges and all the universities? The queues of people standing out. The fights to get children into schools. So you've got school education. Then your tertiary education is either your NQF or your QCTO qualifications or your university qualifications. So August this year, Vox decided to partner with the skills development practitioner, and we are going to make available to our customer base 911 QCTO qualifications. For those of you that don't know, QCTO qualification gets supported by CETA. Right? It's like a diploma in the old days. So it's not a university degree, but it's a degree with a proper accreditation. You can go to an employer and say, I went through a practical module, a knowledge module, a workplace module. I'm ready for the workplace. We're going to give our customer base access to 911 courses at the cost of 299 Rand. It's unheard of. Okay. The cheapest you can study today is 35,000 Rand a year. We're going to make it available at 3,600 Rand a year. And then there's talks with some of the FNOs to say you are spending BE skills development charter money and you don't know what's happening with those funds. Okay, it's being looted. Fact, the CETAs are fraught. Okay, they are stealing all over the place. Now, you can go to a corporate and say, spend your money with this program. You can track what's happening with this individual. You can pick from the top performers and employ them into your business. Now, I think we are going to have a lot more loyal customer, be able to get more customers, retain for a longer period by giving back, and I think we'll make more money than we're making on fiber. So that's our strategy. If we look at the ARPU ladder, right. If you're commoditized ISP only, roughly 100 Rand. If you bundle with a few services, go up to 140. If you're a platform provider, 175. If you embrace an entire ecosystem, and you give value back to a customer that he can't get anywhere else, that ARPU very quickly gets to 220 Rand. So there's 5 things I believe you've got to embrace, and you've got to teach your teams. The first one, bundle beyond connectivity. In COVID, our first bundle was with wireless solutions. During load shedding, we bundled with a UPS. Okay, those days are gone. You've now got to add real value. Own the customer relationship. I'm actually tired of bots talking to me. Sometimes there's a place for a bot. I want to talk to a bot when I book in on Safair on my Cape Town flight. Right. But sometimes I've got a real desire to talk to somebody that understands me. But what are we doing? We're just trying to drive costs down, and I think that's pushing customers away. Is there anybody here from MTN? Okay, then I can tell the story. Have you ever tried to find the same service consultant at MTN? It's impossible. And I'm not saying it's wrong. So I'm an MTN customer, you phone MTN call center, you log a fault, and you speak to Johnny Pretorius. Try and track Johnny down 2 days later. I don't know if he disappeared, if he died, if he ran away, but you cannot find Johnny. But Johnny is the only guy that actually knows about my problems. Okay, because I spent half an hour with him on the telephone. Customer service, big thing. Segment ruthlessly. Consumer, corporate, and within consumer, there's different types of requirements. You've got the gamers, you've got the youngsters, you've got the elderly. They all want something different, but they want simplicity. The same goes with corporates. Right, you've got to segment and give the resource applicable to that corporate. SLA, Trust Builder, spoke about that. I think it's a big game changer. And then the drive to become a platform provider. So now the last question, be honest with yourself. If we had to remove the word internet out of your website, out of your marketing collateral, will anyone know what you're actually selling? If a customer had to cancel, will he lose anything other than bandwidth with you? Probably not. And then if a competitor had to come into the market, offer the same solution for 100 Rand less, will you retain that customer? 3 hard questions. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, I think I've hit the mark. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, that's my talk for today. Thank you very much. Any questions?
We have plenty of time to kill. I would like to invite...
I just don't want the DNS guys to come and ask questions.
I would like to welcome for questions. Does anyone have a question for Jacques?
Portia.
How much did your revenue go up when you introduced your different models?
So, interesting question. How much did the revenue go up when we introduced the different models? The first phase is to protect the revenue that you've got. Because we need to, years back, 15 years back, we tried to protect revenue. And when a customer finds out that he's been a long-standing loyal customer for 15 years and you're charging him 3 times what you could have charged, what you are charging a new customer, he leaves you out of principle. Right. So we're deflating our base faster than we budgeted. Our account managers are doing a phenomenal job to go to customers and say, let's re-sign you, let's put you on a new rate. So right now, the challenge is not to grow the collective top line. The challenge is to replace that delta that you're losing by retaining the customer. Once that has settled, I think you can grow at 15, 20% top line relatively easy. But it's a long journey. This is not a 5-day test match, not a T20. Anything else?
Hi, Rian, WireLink. I want to find out, how do you treat, you mentioned a bit of it now, but how do you treat all long-standing customers with your loyalties and rewards? Do you treat them different than new customers?
So there's 2 things we've done. We've implemented a churn prediction tool using some AI scripting. And we know there's certain telltale signs when a customer is unhappy. Multiple outages, multiple tickets that's been logged. He hasn't paid his bill. There's a big pricing discrepancy on what a new customer can get versus ye. So those customers are treated in a specific way. And we've got a proactive team phoning them and saying, listen, I can see you've logged 4 tickets. What's the issue? How do we resolve you? There's lots of outages. Can we sell you redundancy? And then from a rewards program, we've got 4 tiers. So obviously a long-standing customer, on debit order, no payment default, more than one service with Vox will qualify for the gold tier. Then he's got access to like 30 products that he can be rewarded on, where entry-level customer just signed up, not debit order, you don't have access to anything. All right. And then from time to time we run promotions to say, for the next 30 days, if you sign up, I'll give you X amount of points. that qualifies you to the silver tier as an example. And if you buy one more product from us, you will retain that level. So hopefully he gets to experience the rewards. And we're not predictive when it comes to what we want you to buy. You can buy a voice over IP service for 25 Rand. You can rent a Deco a Wi-Fi extender for 30 Rand. I just want you to get one more product. But I think all of us face the same problem. You want the guy paying on time, you want debit order, you want a long-standing customer, and you reward them wealthy for that. Yes, sir.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Lloyd Mpahlele. So I'm the newly appointed Managing Director for Baobab in South Africa. So now you know my relationship with MTN. So I'm standing up here for a right of reply. No, I'm kidding. You know, what I want to find out, and I mean, it's something that perhaps I might need, and I'll reach out, you know, maybe to have a meeting with you and some of the entities in your space. How much of a problem is the amount of ISPs in the space contributing to some of, you know, the issues of, you know, revenue, you know, decline in the space? Because, I mean, you looked at some dimensions and, you know, at times, and I mean, I've heard Ralph talk about, you know, the bigger telecoms market and, you know, the need for, you know, for consolidation for things to make sense. I mean, you know, the costs keep going up, but then we're chasing the same revenues, etc. How much of a problem is the number of similar entities as yourself competing for the same customer base contributing to this decline? Thank you.
Yeah, so different ways to answer that. I don't think it's a problem. Not all customers can like Vox. Not all customers can like cool ideas. I mean, that's just the reality. Some people, you know, I'll say in Vox we've only got two types of customers, extremely happy ones and extremely disappointed ones. There's nothing in between. Now, but what we have found in the outlying areas, let's say Tzaneen as an example, Vox battles in Tzaneen because we're not from Tzaneen traditionally. The local ISP there can be 10, 20, 50, 150 Rand more expensive, but the loyalty is insane. Right? Because they went to school together, probably the husband works for the friend's wife, they go to church together, the kids go to creche together. So there in the outlying towns, it's a completely different dynamic. In Johannesburg, Cape Town, Durban, I think there it's easier to differentiate via service, your customer service. And then I think the smaller ISPs are battling because they don't have that interpersonal loyalty. Their cost of servicing is far more expensive than ours due to scale. But listen, I allow the sun to shine on them. I mean, if they can pull it off. I'm happy. At the end of the day, the end customer must have choice. And if he's unhappy, he will come to us. But then we need to be ready. And if we're not ready, we can't complain about it. If he goes to MWeb or Web Africa, because we weren't at the right time available with the right product at the right price point, that's our own problem. So it's not a problem for me. 2 minutes. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.